site of the $175,000 Bassmaster Florida Invitational, and the site of something most uncommon lately to this huge inland lake, rain. Yesterday, during the last day of practice for this three-day tournament, the rains came in a big way. In fact, in nearby West Palm Beach, some areas recorded more than 10 inches. What it'll do to the fishing is yet to be known. The heavy runoff will raise the drought-stricken lake level, but how it will affect the bass is a big question for these Bassmasters. And there's more of the same today. Dark, dismal, and wet. Rain gear is the uniform of the day as these 300 anglers prepare to do battle with the bass. Although Okeechobee is rising due to the rain, the water level is very low, lower than last year. Some of the most productive areas during the 1990 Invitational are, for all practical purposes, out of the water or unfishable because of heavy vegetation growth. Some of the Big O's bass are spawning, but the majority of these pro anglers feel they're fishing for pre-spawn bass. And as usual here, anglers find the fish bunched up on shallow grass flats. While these tournament fishermen use a variety of artificial lures, the plastic worm seems to be working best for the majority of these contestants. And big bass like this one are often the payoff. While fishing for many this first day is slow, someone will always find and catch the bass, like Texas angler Bruce Benedict.
Watch the scale. 20 pounds, 4 ounces. 20 pounds, 4. Mark it. Hold it. Let me check it one more time. I want to be absolutely positive. It's right on the break. 20 pounds, 4 ounces. Mark it. Now, reach in here and pull out the two big fish. Folks, this is a 7 bass limit that we've seen several today, but we don't have 2 kilos in there. That's what does it.
Day 2 of the BASS Florida Invitational. A cold front passed in the night, and the day is clear, cool, and windy. The pros figure it'll be tough fishing, but Oklahoma's Jimmy Houston, in second place this morning, scores early. And fishing nearby, another Oklahoma pro is also catching bass, Ken Cook. What's Jimmy Houston's pattern? Is he catching pre-spawn or bedding bass?
You see a few beds in here, so obviously you know that some of them are in here spawning. I think some of them are resident fish that just live up here real shallow. No matter how low the lake gets, they just don't leave and go out in that deeper grass. And, but I'm pretty sure that some of the big fish I've caught the last 3 or 4 days have probably come off beds, because when I catch a big one, sometimes I look and there'll be a bed there close by.
Even though heavy rains create runoff, not all the water coming into a lake is of good enough quality to supply needed oxygen for fish survival. That's why BASS Tournament Director Dewey Kendrick continually checks oxygen levels in the release area.
We check the oxygen content of the water in the actual body of water where we're going to release the tournament fish that are caught. Because our #1 goal at bass is to always put the fish back in the water and make them survive. And our survival rate so far has been about 98.5% over the 23 years that we've been releasing fish. And what I did this week, I came down on Monday, checked the oxygen content. The oxygen content was about 3 parts per million, which is really unsuitable for the bass to survive in. And just took a standard oxygen meter like the one I'm holding in my hand now, and we checked the oxygen content with it. It shows you've got a green zone, and in that green zone is the area of that the fish can survive in. You've got a red zone over on the left on the meter, and once it gets to that red zone, really anything below about 4.5 parts per million to 5 parts per million oxygen content, the fish will not survive in. So as soon as I saw it light up in the red zone, I knew we had to do something. So called Tallahassee, Florida, talked to the Game and Fish, got a permit to haul the fish from the weigh-in site over to the main body of the lake and release them every day. And that's what we've been doing while we've been here at the tournament. We're releasing the fish in the rim canal where the oxygen content is excellent. And that's one thing that I hope that most of the tournament organizations throughout the country will do, is check the oxygen content in the water where they're releasing their fish, because if there's no oxygen, those fish are not going to survive.
The Bassmasters will be right back from Clewiston, Florida, and the 1991 BASS Florida Day 2 of the Bassmaster Florida Invitational winds down. And while the pickings overall seem slim, some Lake Okeechobee anglers do well.
7 bass, people. This man here is a dynamite fisherman, one of our biggest classics in the early days. He had, what was your weight the first, yesterday?
I had 11.3. I was like 39th place.
39th place. And I want to tell you something. This is going to move him up. Bob Cobb, he's got a marvelous catch. And you can see here a good 10 pounds or better, right quick. And the weight, 13 pounds, 13 ounces. Let's give him a good hand. If I got news for you, that's going to keep you in there, Jack. Let's take a look at the big bass. Just put Jack Haynes has just come into the lead, people. This is the fish that did it right here. This fish could go over 5 pounds.
The fishing is tough, the catching tougher. Yesterday, the 300 angler field weighed in 1,176 bass. Today, 782. That's 394 fewer. Why? Well, it's a good question, and former fisheries biologist Ken Cook offers an explanation.
What we've had occur here is a pretty typical situation for fishing. We have a couple of 3 days of real cloudy, rainy weather, and the fish are feeling real good. The water's warm, and they're happy, and they're biting, and all their food organisms are moving around, and it's easy for bass to be an active feeding fish. But the sun comes out real bright after the cold front goes through, and even though the water temperature may not drop, if it does that, then that is even worse. It hadn't dropped here all that much yet. But what happens with the bright sunlight, the bass tend to get tighter up under cover. Their food, the shiners and minnows that they eat are not as able to be as effective at eating, so they're not moving around as much. The whole food chain kind of shuts down because of the bright sunlight. They tend to get in heavier cover or deeper water, something that gives them more security, and that makes it hard for the fishermen to adapt to this change a lot of times. And so the fish probably haven't changed location drastically, unless there's been some other factor like water quality changes.
Day 3 of the Florida Invitational. And as the competitors leave for their fishing areas, they know the catching's going to be tough. Pre-tournament estimates for the 3-day winning weight were forecast in the neighborhood of 60 pounds. As you can see from the scoreboard, there's a lot of catching up to be done. Tournament leader Jack Haynes starts things off right. This veteran bass angler won the 1975 Bassmasters Classic his first year on the Bassmaster Tournament Trail. He's a proven pro.
Come here for 7 like that. Come on, little fella. Well, I'll start with that.
Not far away, the bass are coming into second place angler Ken Cook's boat, but it's his partner doing the catching. And back with the leader, Jack Haynes.
The pattern I've been working out here is it's actually a spawn fish pattern. There's a lot of fish in this area, and I'm just working the holes in the eelgrass and the peppergrass up in here. And when you can see them, it's a lot easier to fish them. That's why right now I can't see them real well, so I'm just kind of going around, kind of looking for dark spots, throwing this spinnerbait in. They've been biting spinnerbait, a worm, and been biting a spoon a little bit.
And in an almost secluded area, Florida's Roland Martin, in third place, pitches plastic worms in the rushes. There's no question that in the history of professional bass angling, Roland Martin stands at the top. He placed second in the first BASS tournament he entered in 1970, won the next tournament he fished, and 15 more. He has more tournament wins, 16, than any Bassmaster in history. Add to that record these facts. He's won Angler of the Year 9 times, qualified for 18 out of 20 Bassmasters Classic World Finals. He's competed in 162 Bassmasters tournaments, placing in the money in 125 of them, including 2 second-place Megabucks finishes. Martin won the Florida Invitational on Lake Okeechobee in 1980 and placed second to Rick Clunn in 1985, losing by 1 ounce. And today, Roland started out only 1 pound 5 ounces off the lead. This morning's leader, Jack Haynes, is still catching bass, but they're small. The size limit for this tournament is 12 inches. This bass is questionable. Roland Martin's partner, Carlos Sellers, is hanging on to a big biggin. Sergeant Major Sellers is a career Army NCO stationed at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. He qualified for the 1990 Bassmasters Classic in Richmond, Virginia through the BASS Federation. He's fishing with the pros now and obviously holding his own.
Same reed head my partner caught the first day, caught his 6 pounds. Look at that, Luke.
It's not that's a good size.
Jack Haynes needs another bass. He needed this one. Weigh-in time, and local favorite Roland Martin comes to the scales.
Roland Martin in third place needs 10 pounds, 5 ounces to take the lead. This is third place with 23 pounds, 11 ounces. Watch the scale. That's it, 13 pounds, 10 ounces. Mark it. Roland, I think that's going to put you clearly in the lead. Give us a quickie rundown of what you were doing, Roland.
Well, I've worked real extensively in this tournament with Fred Ward. Fred's been on the lake for about 50 days, and we found about 3 good patterns. And one of the patterns, I guess, that it's really Fred's pattern, is this real backwater stuff. I mean, we're so far back in some places. Of course, the water's come up and probably put more fish in those back areas than before, but it's so bad that you go to run your trolling motor and the mud's coming up off the bottom. And it's places like in behind the reeds. And my first spot was all the boats were going by me. The whole tournament went by me practically, and they couldn't see me because I'm behind these reed heads. And they're not everywhere in there, of course, but they're basically go back into the bulrushes so far that you're out of sight. People can't really see you. And these fish are in about 2 feet of water right now, but see, it's come up about a foot. And a couple weeks ago, it was so shallow, the boat wouldn't even float back there.
Amazing.
But they're actually back there. A few of them are spawning, and a few of them are just laying around the reed clumps. You look for the points of the reeds where the current is kind of making a little, or a pass between 2 reed clumps. There's a bass like in a pass or on a point. And just worm fishing. And I did catch a couple on little rapalas, twitching them along early, but basically I've taken about 50 keeper bass this tournament, mainly on worm.
Fantastic. All right, nice hand, folks. One of the great names in fishing, Roland Martin. We're pleased to be here with he and his beautiful wife, Mary Ann, at that nice facility.
Usually for the tournament leader, there's a suspense factor as the challengers weigh in. But not today, because Roland has talked to them. He knows what they caught.
Hey, no, wait a minute. I want to turn. Hey, I've just seen Ken Cook, and I beat him. And I've just seen Jack Haynes, and I've just seen Jimmy Houston, and I beat all those guys. All those top guys, I beat them.
And Roland Martin is the champion of the Lake Okeechobee 1991 Florida Invitational. $34,000 richer than he was this morning, adding yet another notch on his all-time BASS tournament record, his 17th win. Stay on board. The Bassmasters will be right back with a look at what the pros do on their days off the water. Right now, it's time for the Pros Pointer, the how-to section of the Bassmasters. Brought to you by Wrangler, the most comfortable jeans known to man.
You know, folks, for years I used a casting rod and reel much like this one. 12, 14-pound test line, 5.5-foot rod. But recently I've found another system, and that's my heavy-duty saltwater spinning rod system. This is a 6.5-foot rod, just stiff. I catch big snook and cobia on this rod. Huge saltwater spinning reel, large diameter spool, 17-pound line, that's height drag. But really what makes this interesting is the screw-on gambler weight, like this one. Look at this. I'm taking this gambler worm, like I used in this tournament, to win the tournament. I'm coming through the head of the worm a little bit farther than normal, and I'm screwing that weight into the worm. Screw it in about 5 or 6 turns, pull the hook down just a little bit more. Now, with this two-handed rod, watch this cast. Big spool, about 150 foot, just straight on down. That's a long cast with heavy line.